Have you ever caught yourself replaying the same worry over and over, even when you wanted to think about something completely different? Maybe you've promised yourself that tomorrow you'll be more optimistic, more confident, or more hopeful, only to discover that the same familiar thoughts quietly return. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. What many people don't realize is that your brain is always listening, not only to the conversations you have with others, but also to the quiet dialogue you have with yourself every single day. And here's something interesting. The words you repeat most often may gradually influence what you notice, how you feel, and the choices you make without you even realizing it. Think about it. Throughout the day, your mind is constantly processing information. Most of it happens automatically. You notice opportunities, problems, compliments, setbacks, and possibilities through patterns your brain has learned over time. Some people believe this process also shapes the energy they bring into their lives, while psychology describes it as the way attention and habits influence perception. Whatever perspective speaks to you, both point toward a simple idea. What repeatedly captures your attention often becomes easier to notice tomorrow. Have you ever walked into a room convinced that something would go wrong? Maybe nothing terrible actually happened, yet every small inconvenience seemed to confirm your expectation. Now compare that with a day when you woke up feeling calm and hopeful. The same world may have looked surprisingly different. The people around you behaved similarly, your responsibilities remained the same, but your experience changed because your mind filtered events differently. This doesn't mean positive thinking magically removes every obstacle. Life still presents challenges. Unexpected expenses still appear. Difficult conversations still happen. But the way your brain interprets those experiences influences your emotional response, and that response often affects your next decision. Most people spend years trying to change their circumstances without ever paying attention to the quiet conversation happening inside their own minds. Yet your inner voice rarely takes a break. It comments on your abilities, your future, your finances, your relationships, and even your worth. After hearing the same messages hundreds or thousands of times, your brain begins treating them as familiar. Familiar thoughts require less effort to believe because they've been repeated so often. What if those repeated messages deserve a little more attention? Maybe you've noticed how easy it is to remember criticism from years ago while forgetting compliments from yesterday. Our brains naturally pay close attention to experiences connected with emotion. This tendency helped human beings survive by remembering danger, but today it can also make us replay worries that are no longer useful. Little by little, those repeated mental patterns become habits. Habit formation isn't limited to brushing your teeth or taking the same route to work. Thoughts themselves can become habits. Certain emotional reactions can become habits. Even expecting disappointment can become automatic if it has been practiced often enough. The encouraging part is that habits are learned, and learned habits can gradually change. Many people report that the first step isn't replacing every negative thought with a positive one. Instead, it's becoming aware that the thought appeared in the first place. Awareness creates a small pause between the thought and your response. That pause may only last a few seconds, but it gives you something powerful: choice. Imagine hearing an inner voice say, "Nothing ever works out for me." Instead of immediately accepting it as reality, you simply notice it. You recognize that your brain produced a familiar sentence. You don't argue with it. You don't judge yourself for thinking it. You simply become aware. That tiny moment of observation changes something important. You are no longer completely inside the thought. You're looking at it. This may sound like a very small difference, yet many people describe it as the beginning of greater emotional balance. When thoughts are observed rather than automatically believed, they often lose some of their influence. There's another reason this matters. Your attention acts like a spotlight. Whatever it repeatedly shines on becomes easier to find. If your attention constantly searches for proof that life is unfair, it will usually discover examples. If your attention begins noticing moments of progress, kindness, learning, or possibility, those examples gradually become easier to recognize as well. Neither approach changes reality overnight, but it changes what your brain prioritizes. Think about someone learning to drive. At first, every sign, mirror, and movement requires conscious effort. Eventually, the brain organizes those repeated experiences into automatic patterns. Thoughts work in a surprisingly similar way. The more often certain ideas are repeated, the more familiar they become. That's why many people choose to speak to themselves with greater intention. Not because repeating encouraging words guarantees success, but because consistent messages may influence attention, emotional regulation, and future decisions. Some people also connect this idea with the law of attraction. They believe that maintaining thoughts focused on gratitude, possibility, and abundance helps align their attention with opportunities they may otherwise overlook. Whether viewed as a spiritual practice or simply a way of training awareness, many people say the experience encourages them to approach life differently. Have you ever noticed that when you're looking forward to meeting someone, you suddenly see reminders of them everywhere? A song, a color, a familiar place. The world didn't suddenly change. Your attention did. Your brain is always listening to what you repeat. If your daily message is, "I'm always behind," your attention may become highly sensitive to unfinished tasks while overlooking steady progress. If your repeated message becomes, "I'm learning to handle challenges one step at a time," your attention may begin recognizing moments of resilience that were always present but previously ignored. Little by little, this influences confidence. Confidence rarely appears all at once. More often, it grows through repeated experiences of keeping small promises to yourself. Every time you notice a thought, instead of reacting automatically, you're practicing self-regulation. Every time you pause before assuming the worst, you're strengthening a different mental pathway. Neuroplasticity is simply the brain's remarkable ability to adapt through repeated experiences. It doesn't happen instantly, and it doesn't require perfection. Small actions practiced consistently often leave a greater impression than dramatic efforts performed only once. This changes the way many people approach personal growth. Instead of asking, "How can I become a completely different person today?" they begin asking, "What small pattern can I practice today that my future self will appreciate?" That question feels lighter. It feels possible. Maybe you've spent years criticizing yourself for every mistake. Imagine replacing just one sentence. Instead of saying, "I failed again," perhaps you quietly tell yourself, "I'm still learning." Nothing else changes immediately. The challenge remains. The work remains. But your relationship with the experience begins shifting. Emotions also play an important role in what the brain remembers. Experiences connected with calm curiosity are often processed differently than experiences filled with panic or shame. That's one reason gentle awareness can become such a valuable practice. It allows you to notice what's happening without adding unnecessary judgment. People often assume change requires dramatic breakthroughs. Yet lasting habits usually grow from ordinary moments repeated consistently. One small pause before reacting. One encouraging sentence. One moment of gratitude. One decision to notice possibility instead of immediately expecting disappointment. Day after day, those moments begin creating a different rhythm. What happens next? Your brain becomes increasingly familiar with these new experiences, not because it has been forced, because it has been exposed to them consistently. Some people describe this as changing their personal frequency. Others describe it as strengthening healthier cognitive habits. The language may differ, but both perspectives recognize the importance of repeated attention. Your brain cannot ignore what you consistently practice. If every day begins with worry, worry becomes familiar. If every day includes even a brief moment of intentional awareness, awareness becomes familiar too. Few people notice that the quality of their inner conversations often predicts the quality of their emotional experience more than external circumstances alone. Of course, life remains unpredictable. Challenges don't disappear because of positive intentions. But the way you respond to those challenges can gradually become calmer, clearer, and more constructive. Imagine where those small changes could lead after weeks or months. Not because of one perfect day, because of many ordinary days practiced with greater awareness. Tonight, before you go to sleep, spend just 3 quiet minutes listening to your own inner conversation. Don't try to silence it. Don't try to replace every thought. Simply notice the sentences that appear most often. If one sentence keeps repeating, gently ask yourself whether it's helping you move toward the life you want or simply repeating an old habit. Tomorrow, notice whether that same thought appears again during the day. Many people are surprised by how often familiar messages return once they begin paying attention. That simple awareness may become the first step toward creating a different pattern over time. If this message gave you something meaningful to reflect on, subscribe and join us as we continue building practical daily habits for a calmer and more abundant mindset. Share in the comments one sentence you noticed your inner voice repeating today. Your experience may encourage someone else to begin paying attention to their own thoughts. Be sure to come back tomorrow for the next step in this daily practice, where we'll continue adding one simple habit at a time. You'll also find additional resources in the description and the pinned comment. Remember, lasting change often comes from small, consistent actions practiced day after day, rather than one extraordinary effort.